My crush mother called me a bop. Now years later she wants me to give her son a chance. I 20 female have grown up with my childhood friend 22 male who we'll call John. John left for the army when he was 18, but despite that we stayed in touch and I even visited him once or twice where he was posted. I used to love John's mother, who we'll call Amy, when I was younger, but when I was 15, I overheard her saying some mean things about me and my siblings behind our backs to John, who she knew I liked at the time. She said some nasty things like I might become a bop because my birth mother was one. For context, me and my siblings are all adopted as well as all of Amy's kids. Or my father told her I don't clean myself, which I know isn't true because my father often complained to her that I showered too often. I like feeling clean and always have, so I might have STDs. Since overhearing these things, I couldn't really bring myself to remain as close to her as I was. A few weeks ago, John came for a visit, and his mother, Amy, invited my family as well as a few other friends over for dinner. I was pretty excited to see him since I hadn't seen him in over a year. During the visit, I needed to take a breather, so I stepped outside to get some fresh air and calm my nerves. John joined me after a while, which was perfectly fine since it allowed me to be able to finally talk to him one-on-one. We mainly just caught up with each other and talking about random things until he asked if he could court me. It took me quite some time to reply, but I did eventually told him that I didn't want to have his mother as my mill, and I didn't want to ruin his relationship with his mother, especially since they're so close. John seemed very disappointed, but he just said okay and changed the subject. I thought that was the end of that, but apparently he told Amy that he was going to ask me out beforehand, and after my family left, she had asked how it had gone. John of course answered truthfully and told her I said no, but it also told her what I had said as to why I wouldn't let him court me, and the next morning I woke up to a bunch of mean voicemails and texts from her and a few mutual friends calling me a hole for refusing to court John because I didn't want Amy as my mill, and that I was a female dog for not liking Amy, even though she's been nothing but kind to me, and so on and so forth. I haven't responded to any of the calls and messages, and frankly I don't know how. I didn't wish to upset anyone, but I do feel my reasons is valid. Update. Thank you all so much for all the advice. It really helped with making my decision on how to handle the situation. Before I explain what my decision was, I'm going to answer some of the questions I was asked. 1. My family is religious and a bit old-fashioned, I suppose. My parents always told me growing up that dating was more casual and isn't always done with the intention of marriage, while courting was more formal and with the intention of marriage in the long run. John grew up the same way, so to us he was asking if he could get to know me as a potential spouse. 2. I didn't tell anyone but my father what I overheard Amy saying about me, as at the time I didn't want to start problems and ruin relationships. My father did understand why I didn't want to be as close to Amy anymore and never forced the relationship. 3. I might consider changing my mind if I wasn't expected to have a relationship with Amy and more than seeing her every once in a while at family gatherings, as long as I wasn't expected to speak with her. Okay, so I did send the screenshots of the messages I was getting to John. He called me and apologized, saying that he never intended for his mother to react that way, and that he only told what I had said because he was angry and upset. He did say he wasn't angry at me as he understood my point of view. I did also tell him what I overheard and he didn't deny it, and also told me she often said mean things about others as well, and that apparently she would say nasty things about him and his siblings to others also. Which I figured she said nasty things about others too, but not her own kids. John told me he'd speak with his mother and would also like if we can all sit down and have a talk. I told him I'd think about it. I also sent the screenshots to the other friends that were sending me nasty messages, and most of them have been very quiet since then. My dad is appalled by their behavior as well and hasn't spoken much to any of them. Same goes for my siblings and the friends that are on my side. Update. So I have a short update. John called me about an hour ago to tell me he talked with his mother and wanted to know if I would be willing to come over this Wednesday to have a talk with her and him. I asked if I could bring my father and older brother and he agreed. He also asked if it was okay to bring his grandmother, who we'll call Ms. Mary, who's Amy's mother. I actually love Ms. Mary. She's a wonderful person who doesn't take crap from anyone and isn't afraid to put people in their place, even her own daughter. Great Christian woman that I haven't since my high school graduation, but I do still call often. Me and John used to spend half our summer break at her house every year. She lives on a lake and we used to love going kayaking and fishing with her husband. She's the person who taught me how to sew, cook and clean, as well as how to bake delicious treat. I love baking and often do it to relax. Her late husband was an amazing person as well and was the one that inspired John to go into the army. So yes, I agreed to Ms. Mary to come as well. I'm actually excited to see her because it's been years. Edit. Amy has no clue her mother is coming? John asked me not to tell her either. He knows she would be on her best behavior in front of her mother otherwise. Update. Okay, so I'm going to answer some questions I got on my last update before the actual update itself. 1. Yes, I like John romantically. The reason for me saying no was never because I didn't like him back, it was because I didn't want to have a mill who talks bad about me or my family. 2. I decided to have the meeting for a few reasons. 1. I wanted to know where me and John stood, and whether or not I'd even be able to stay friends after this. 2. I wanted to finally confront Amy on her behavior, not just towards me but others as well. 3. I needed to know why John told her and whether or not it was like some of you thought, that he might have done it to confront her or confide in her. 3. I don't expect Amy to ever change or for her to apologize, at least not an honest apology. I also thought I'd give you a bit more information about me and John's relationship up until this point. Like I said before, me and John are childhood friends. Our fathers are also childhood friends and our mothers met in their 20s and became friends. Me and John did pretty much everything together up until he left for the military when he turned 18. If I wanted to go to the movie theater, I'd invite John and we'd go together. If John wanted to go camping, we'd go together. We have a lot of the same hobbies as well. We both like hiking and mountain climbing, as well as swimming and going on runs. Like I mentioned in my last post, me and John stayed at Ms. Mary's house during our summer breaks. Yes, Ms. Mary taught me how to cook, clean, sew, and how to bake, but she did that because she didn't want me being lazy and laying around all summer. So why not put me to work? At least that's how I see that. She also put John to work too while we were there, so it wasn't just me. John used to help Ms. Mary's late husband with yard work and garage work. Okay, so for the actual update, Ms. Mary sat in a different room of John's home with my father at first without Amy's knowledge. That was my father's suggestion, and my brother recorded the initial conversation to share with everyone else. I spoke first and explained my side. She tried to interrupt me as I spoke, but John shut her down every time. I told her how I didn't like how she reacted after hearing that I didn't want her as my mill, and that her having her friends gang up on me and also say rude things was completely inappropriate. I then mentioned what I had overheard her saying about me when I was 15, and that's when she started yelling at me. She was saying things like, "I never said anything mean, and you made that up," as well as, "I don't understand why you're bringing that up now, and didn't I help your brother get into college?" As well as, "Wasn't I there for you when your mother died? Didn't I comfort you?" Which no, she didn't. John did that as well as Ms. Mary, John's older brother and cousin, as well as some of my other friends, and of course my family. John did stand up for me, but Amy just got more upset and started screaming at John until Ms. Mary had had enough and made herself be known. Amy pretty much immediately shut up. Ms. Mary immediately started scolding Amy for her behavior. Ms. Mary wasn't yelling, she stayed calm, but man, I've never seen her so upset before. Honestly, it was scary how calm but angry she was. Have any of you heard the saying, "Nothing's scarier than calm anger"? Amy did try and make excuses for her behavior to Ms. Mary, but immediately stopped after John showed her the messages I had sent him. She didn't apologize, which I didn't really expect anyway, and pretty much immediately left after that. Me and John did talk things out and decided we should just remain friends, at least for the time being. I did ask if he's going to keep contact with his mother. He said yes, but minimal for now. I also asked why he told Amy what I said, and he told me he had been upset and she had started nagging him for answers on how his proposal had gone. He said he pretty much blew up at her, and that had slipped out. He apologized again for that. I also had a one-on-one talk with Ms. Mary. She apologized again for Amy's behavior. We ended catching up and discussing John. She did say that she kind of always hoped I'd end up with John or John's cousin. Ms. Mary did say that I needed to think long and hard about the kind of man I wanted in my life partner, and to never settle for anything less, because if she settled for less, she would never have had such a great marriage with her late husband. She also invited me to visit her if I needed a vacation. She lives 6 hours away on a beautiful lake. So that's pretty much everything that happened, and I will be going no contact with Amy, and my father has decided to do the same. I will, however, still be continuing my relationship with John as friends and see how it goes from there. Thank you all so much for all the advice.